Jeff Solon.
Here.
Greg Rosenblatt.
Here.
Chris Daddy.
Here.
Megan Rockwell. Dennis Ryu.
Here.
Chuck Nepp.
Chuck said he may be running late.
Okay.
Sarah is stuck at work, and Megan said she's ill.
And Sean, we don't know.
And Sean, I haven't heard. No. So he may pop in at any minute.
Yeah.
All right, the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Sarah said that we had no public correspondence, and we have no visitors today, so. Chairman's report, town council meeting from April 8th. Oh, I'm sorry, yep, approval of minutes. March 27th, 2025. Do we have a motion? So moved, Dennis. Second?
Sure. Say.
Okay. Chris? Any discussion? Seeing none? All those in favor? Opposed? Abstained?
Yep.
All right, now, town council report. Interesting town council meeting. They've all been interesting anyway, because there's been some real controversy regarding the animal control facility. So generally, at the beginning of every meeting is about an hour's worth of people coming up and very upset and angry, and sometimes getting very personal about the town council members. And then I come on after that. And it's worked both ways. Sometimes it's just been, okay, let's just get this done with and move on. This last meeting, there was a lot of conversation, more than usual. 4 issues that came up in particular, and this is sometimes just an individual council member who just, makes a comment or something. It's usually not something that comes from the whole council or anything like that. But I was asked what kind of contingency plans we had in case the building is not open on time. I have since spoken to Dr. Solon about that, and we've agreed we're a long way away from having to go there, that to do any real detailed planning, contingency planning would be a great deal of time and effort, but we'll have a much better feel this time a year from now, and if need be at that point. The second was a question regarding the use of any furniture and equipment that are in the present schools, and whether we were inventorying that, and how much, if any of that, we were bringing to the new buildings. And I talked to Vince on that. Vince, if you want to speak to that issue.
The priority would be anything that's in good condition, we would redeploy, not necessarily to either of the new buildings, but rather to move them to Doolittle or Highland or Dodd or the high school. We've been very careful about our purchasing of equipment and furniture in particular the last few years at Chapman and Darcy and Norton, because we know that those schools are going to be closed down. But we certainly plan to do an inventory and a redeployment as necessary. The one place where we know we will have to be moving furniture and equipment is from Darcy to the new Barnum Elementary, because those items are not easily recreated. They may not be in a catalog. However, I didn't tell you this because it just happened today. It was vendor day at Casbo. So there's a gentleman and a group that actually manages and has been managing prison labor to manufacture and build custom items, including the type of furniture that's at Darcy that was originally built by the prison population. So it sounds like they may be able to help us, and if not, build new, refurbish or refinish what we have. So that's a lead that just came up today, so we'll follow up on that. So I do expect that we will be moving items from Darcy to Barnum. Things like our smart flat panels, those will be redeployed, to the high school probably, because we do have purchases that we won't make at the high school where we know we need to replace the old smart board projector style. So long story short, we're on it. We understand the request.
So we won't have any fairly new stuff that then just, gets discarded or
We're a
whatever.
school district. We rarely throw anything good.
Yeah, I know what that's like. So I'm sure you've got desks and chairs that are 40 years old that are in some of those buildings.
Yeah, and usually they put broken stuff in the basement instead of throwing it out, so.
There was some
There's
discussion, or not discussion, but Peter Talbot just mentioned, selling off any excess and things like that too. So,
If there is, we'll obviously handle that as well.
yeah. There was a single comment made about funding the redistricting plan and feeling that was something that should come from the school district rather than from the committee. And I said that that's something that was discussed, and the committee felt that it was part of the building of the new schools, that the redistricting was a key component of that, and the committee decided to go ahead and fund that. It was, as I said, it was just a single person. Then there was a fairly long discussion about sidewalks, and I won't go into all the details with you, but I wasn't even aware that there was discussion about, as you'll recall on our plan, on Jarvis, there is a sidewalk presently that runs from Carrier Woods up to the corner of
Marion.
And we have, something coming out from our special ed, our preschool part of the building to Jarvis, and then going up to the corner of Marion. Well, they want to eventually run sidewalks from that driveway all the way down on the north side of the road, on our side of the road, and all the way down until it finally gets to some of the subdivisions that are farther down. So there was some discussion about, well, couldn't the committee have, run those sidewalks along there? And I said, we went to planning and zoning, we presented the plan. Planning and zoning actually asked us to extend some of the sidewalks that we had in the original plan. We accommodated all of that, and that was it. And so there was some discussion about what's reimbursable, what's not reimbursable, but as I said, it was just a fairly detailed conversation, but no real, ending to that situation. So that was it. Any comment or question on any of that? Okay. I wanted to just take a couple of minutes on the open space software. I know that there was an email that was sent out to you way back when, and that everyone had the ability to get a login for this. I believe Chris was the only committee member that said that he was interested. But it is something that I go on a fairly regular basis. The open space, you can see a bit of the helmet that's at the bottom here. But about once a week, and Ryan, you can jump in anytime you want, but about once a week, somebody from each of the sites goes through and walks the site. And if I come back over here to home, you'll see that just yesterday, or today, I guess, they walked it twice. Or once around the entire site of Norton, and then a second around what would be the building when the building is done. So you get a chance to take a look at all those, and as you're going through, I'm going to find my blue line here.
So down at the bottom in the middle, Rich, you can
Yep.
actually press the play. That's the middle of the 5 arrows, and that will walk you slowly through along the blue line. You can also just use the arrows left and right of that to move back and forth if you
Yeah.
wanted to just go.
Yeah, I've tended
one
to
step
do
at
it
a time.
manually.
Yep.
Let me just pause it for a second. But you can see where the blue line is there. If you run along that blue line, it'll show you spots that you can jump ahead to. But at any time, you can also do a 180-degree turn.
It's actually it's
360
360
degree turn,
and
yeah.
it's 3D. So you can look up, you can look down. So right now we do it once a week because there's not a lot changing. But once we get in the building, we'll probably do it at least twice a week. especially when we start to getting close to closing up walls. So it helps us because we have a live picture or a documented picture every couple of days of the work that goes in. So heaven forbid, sheetrock goes up and a box gets buried, we'll be able to identify right where that, that box was, and be able to, instead of to rip a sheet down or go exploring, we can identify right there from the pictures of where it is.
If you look up in this right-hand corner, this is the person taking the stuff, and that's the view that we're looking at right now. So as I move, that moves along with me. So I can always see exactly what it is we're seeing. So if you don't have time to get out to the site and walk around, at least right now about once a week, you can go in, you can walk through the whole site in this manner and see what's going on. So if you're interested, would they just let you know, Ryan?
Just let me know. There's more than, I know Jeff's on there. I believe, I know the principal from Norton has been given access.
Right.
We can give anybody access. We don't need a special license or anything. So just send me an email. Happy to add you in there. Anyone that wants to be added in there. All I need is your email address that you'll use to.
So I thought committee members may be interested. I keep it up on my computer all the time. I have one for Norton and one for North End, and I just check, every few days and, walk the site. So it's worth doing,
So as we get the building developed and get, you get to the inside of the building, get the building enclosed, we start going inside, you'll see more of these sheets. And what these are our contract drawings that are the white sheet up in the upper corner where the blue line and the yellow is.
Mm-hmm.
So right now, it's an overall view that they're using of the entire building. But as we get into more finished spaces and start to do in-wall stuff, we'll break it down to the way that Tecton broke it up in their drawings. Building D, first floor, building D, second floor, and each area will get its own walk. So they'll go out there, and it'll take some time because they've got to walk slow, otherwise you get a little blur in the pictures. But it's really cool because it's actually a video that's taken, and every point that Rich was jumping to, AI decides where to put those points, right, based on whatever the programming is that is inside of open space. But it'll elect all of those steps and spots, and it's been very beneficial to us. Like questions are asked, hey, the ceiling's now closed up. Did we do, what we want to see where this was, or what was, where's the ductwork running? You can just go back and look. And the nice thing is that you can stand in one spot and you can go back to every time a picture was taken at that spot for the entirety of the project. So you can see.
I think the maintenance staff would love that.
Yeah.
What's behind that wall, we
Mhm.
can really get in there and
Yep.
take a look at that.
So as we get more active in building out the building, we will do more than one walk a week, because we just move too fast to do one walk a week. Things change too much, and you have the chance that a wall is going to be closed up. So that's what I've told my teams is I want, before any walls get closed up, the day before they get closed up, I want them, I want a walk at the end of that day. If they're going to sheetrock the next morning, let's get a walk that day so that we can have the latest version before the walls were closed up.
So if you're interested, send something to Ryan and you can get logged on.
Does this become archived and something that we get when the project is over? Or
I
does this
believe that we
disappear?
can do that. I'd have to follow up with our VDC manager who manages this, but I believe you can get this archived. Like I can go back to my old projects and find them on there. So I believe once you're on there, I don't know how long they stay on this. It might be 7 years, but I believe you can download it.
Okay, because if not, then
Well,
Too
I'm
bad
hoping,
maintenance.
for maintenance purposes, that.
I'll find out for
Yeah,
you.
I think that would be great. The other thing, very quickly, I wanted to show, Vince and Jeff have been really good about putting pictures up on our website, and Mike has been going out with the drone and doing some occasional things there. So let me just very quickly, this is one of the later ones that was done at Norton. I'm looking forward to the next one because it's going to show the steel going on. So there are several of those that are on the site now, and, you know, Mike will do those periodically, and it gives you a nice view of what's going on. At one point, I had, you know, somebody asking me about the trees that were at the Norton site. You can really get a good sense here of what trees are around that area, you know, when you get up ahead like that. So anyway, all that is available to you at any time if you want to take a look. Okay? Let's see, two different ones here. Okay. CM at risk, construction and schedule update, north end of Barnum Elementary, construction schedule update Norton, and bid approvals if any.
All right, so we actually have an official ONG report finally. We got everything worked out with the budget side, and that was what was kind of holding this up. So I believe you should have North End on top here. So this is just a typical, what our typical monthly report is. Now I did include the entire schedule, baseline schedule for you. We'll say that, you know, there is still ongoing work on this schedule to develop it even more. But if you know, look on the cover page, you can see some of our area completion dates. We're looking at area C and D finishing around the third week of May, area B, middle of the third week of June, and then area A construction wrapping up on July 16th, our substantial completion date. We will do everything we can to better those dates if we can, any of those dates, but we'll be pushing towards those dates and bettering of those. There's a lot of information in this schedule. It's pretty broken out, so I'm not going to go through it all. But a couple things I would like to point out. If we go to sheet number 2, which is I think the 5th page, you'll see our summary data. For the north end, we are about 3% complete in buildings A and B, and 5% complete in buildings C and D. Now that's based on billing, where we're at billing wise. Obviously, site work and concrete are where we, you know, are farthest along on north end. We actually have quite a bit of site work done. North end, they have completed the installation of all the drilled wells, and they are working on the horizontal piping. They put in the geothermal tank that goes on the outside, and they're working on getting all the horizontal piping into the tie into the building. The vast majority, I'd say 80+% of all the underground storm and sanitary has been installed. We are working with RWA, and you'll see some change orders that are related to that in tonight's packet. You know, Regional Water Authority to get our main water line and fire line installed from Marion Drive down into the project. We've been in discussions with Eversource regarding getting the permanent power there. There's a little bit of a question about the location of the transformer, so we are talking with Coloronen, and we're going to be talking with them and Eversource and Tecton to try to address any concerns or questions or issues that Eversource may have and get that wrapped up. But on here you'll see, you know, some baseline information. You've got your original GMP value, $68,638,50. You've got your potential budget revisions, which when we printed this report, we did not have any at that time. But the approved budget revisions are $24,634 in credits. That's the summation of all the phase 1 allowances that we returned previously and this committee approved. And your current budget of $68,606,213. You can see we've awarded all of our contracts. We have some potential costs that are coming down at $60,380, and that will be discussed in the meeting in the PCOs today. We again reiterate the approved changes and then our projected cost with all that information in it. And then the bottom line you'll see here is our allowance funds available and then our contingency funds available. Those allowance funds are our CM allowances, not our subcontractor allowances. Those are contained within their contracts. The pages behind that is the ONG CM monthly cost control report. This is a breakdown of all of the costs that are included in the GMP. So you've got your pre-construction costs, your CM staff, general conditions and reimbursables, your CMGC and reimbursables. So we have our staff, and what as one line item, and then because those are billed over a lump sum every month, and then the CMGC and reimbursables costs those are direct costs, and you pay directly. This committee will pay directly what the costs that are incurred. What's covered in that is our trailer costs, which are limited at the house, but some furniture cost. I'm sorry, this is page 1 of 2 on this sheet here that everyone can see. Okay. It's actually page 3 of the numbered part, but you can't really see it. It's in the bottom center there. But after that, you have all of the trade packages. So your joint sealant, your fire alarm, your concrete, masonry, all of those, and their contract values in there. You'll see any potential. The second column is any potential changes that are coming from those subs, any approved changes that have been awarded to those subs, and then their current budget. On the right half of this page, the 4 columns to the right is really downstream, what we call, and that's between us and our subcontractors. So it balances out on both sides, but really what you'll be looking at is the left-hand side. And then the final part of it here, you'll see here is again continuation of the remainder of the subcontractors. Then you'll see we have both of our bond and our GL and EL insurance. So that's our bond and insurance that we carry on this project. You'll see that there's also potential and approved budget changes, because while we don't allow our subs to charge a bond on every change order, and we rectify with them at the end of the job, O&G does put bond, insurance, and OH&P or CM fee on every change order, and you'll see that when I present. You're not going to see any of that today, because everything I'm presenting, I believe, is CM allowance or CM contingency. So on a CM allowance or CM contingency, we do not apply bond, insurance, and fee, because theoretically we've already applied those those are part of the fee that we included in the GMP. Only if we exceeded the CM allowance and then had to go as an owner change order would that become that. And then the bottom half are the 5 allowances that we have for CM allowance, and you can see the values of those. Our CM contingency is the second to last line here, and then our CM fee at the bottom. And again, you'll see potential changes, approved changes and whatnot, and then the current budget once those are applied to that line item. We turn to the next page, we actually get into the individual, these are owner change orders. The only owner change order that we have to date is owner change order number 1. And you can see that this is a breakout of what went against that owner change order. As we go through more owner change order, and an owner change order is our O&G's means of changing our contract with you. So if there is added cost that increases the GMP, that'll be covered in an owner change order. CM cost, even though they don't increase the GMP, in order for we still capture that in the owner change orders here. And then the next page is your in-scope change order log. So these are all our potential CM fee changes. You've got your potential CM allowances, and the CE stands for change event. So anytime there's any potential cost in our management software, we create a change event. And that change event tracks that cost. Now, that cost could never materialize into actuals, but this way it gives us a chance to project out potential liabilities against the project, whether they be CM contingency, CM allowance, or an owner contingency charge. And then the next group of the next page is your trade allowance log. So this will track all of your trade allowances that we have in there and any billings against them. And so you can see right here, a lot of these you can see we had this very first one, so the CE001. This was the additional erosion control inspection allowance, and we gave that back. So you will see that the credits that came back from us or from O&G and that PCO are all shown here. So that is that, and then you'll see it's by each type of. So we have the O&G soft cost, we have the Richards cost, A&R electric. So as the subs are, we apply change orders to those subs. It's all provided there for a breakout for you. All right. And then all those pages. And then this next page. Sorry, you go through a couple of pages. Next page, you'll see the PCO review. PCO under review. So these are the current PCOs that are under review. I will be presenting these 3 PCOs for the North End today. So we have PCO number 5, which is furnished meter pit for Marion Street. PCO number 3, which is an additional meter pit that the RWA is requiring on the Jarvis Street side of the property. and the utilization of Richard's allowance, the 40,000 we told them to carry to pay for their RWA fees. So those are all captured here, and those will be the PCOs I present to you later today, later this evening. And then the last couple of pages is you'll have our monthly cost and schedule impact items. So this is where we see any potential costs or schedule impacts, anything that may be negatively affecting the project, and we will capture them here and identify them. Not necessarily negatively affect them. Again, I shouldn't say it like that. It's anything that it may have an impact on the project. So we have 5 bulletins to date. You can see here on the second item here. That doesn't mean they necessarily negatively impact, but bulletins tend to be either a clarification or additional work. If it is additional work and it is on the critical path and does cause an additional time, technically that is what this is to show that there is some additional time coming and we may need to extend the end date of the schedule. I will say that very rarely happens. We usually incorporate any change order work within the normal schedule time. We do everything we can not to ever extend our end date. You'll have in here, in addition to this, is we've got RFIs, just giving you the update on that. Talk about our coordination and then the schedule. Then the next item here is the next page is just a project commentary. And this is more or less just giving updates on, so you don't have to go through the whole schedule and look for every activity. These are the major activities that have happened over the last month, and you'll see this gets updated every month. As things get closed out, they'll fall off this list. If they remain open month to month, they'll stay on this list, and we'll continue. You can see, as we say here, ongoing. Still working with the guys to get them to completely understand how we want this. I'd like to see an ongoing or closed, on everything here. And if it's something that closed in the month of March, but it was like something that carried over from it closed in the month of March, I wouldn't take it off this list until I presented it as a closed item. So March's report would have it. If it closed in March, April's report wouldn't have it. We'd take it off in April, but it would be on the March report to talk to you all about.
If we are falling behind in any area as noted in the schedule,
Yep.
would that be seen on the project commentary?
No, that would be on your cost and schedule impact, just the one previous that I talked about that. So we would identify on there what has caused. So as this breaks out even more, you'll see we'll have more items on here. This will expand. Right now we have 5 talking points, topics to go over, but as this expands, if we run into area D challenges or area B, whatever that might be, we'll identify them there.
Whatever.
Could be things like that.
That's the sort of stuff I really want to be
Yeah.
aware of.
So that's where the cost and schedule impacts, that's where you'll find there. Project commentary is mostly going to be updating you about completed activities, ongoing activities. It's more of a really condensed version of what the schedule's telling you. So that you don't have to dig through every line item of the schedule to try to see where we at. I mean, obviously you have it, you can, but this will give you a quick overview of everything that's been completed through March and ongoing, or started in March but not completed. And this will grow quite a bit as we get through it. And then the last page here is we have limited pictures from North End. We don't have as much to take pictures of as they do at Norton, but on the back end side here, I did, there are 4 pictures here. I did ask that we do start to, broaden this for the North End going forward, to add more pictures. You'll see at Norton, they have quite a few more pictures on there, and I'd like to see the North End try to, have more pictures to take, although, again, most of our work that we've been doing has been underground, so there's not a lot of pictures to take of the underground. So as you see, as we'll go through there, but that is the gist of our monthly report. Here, giving you that information.
So the project manager for each project puts this together?
They put parts of this together. So they do the project commentary and the project schedule and cost and schedule impacts. They provide the photos. Our engineer for each job will walk around and do the photos and provide information on those. A lot of the financial portion of that is done through our programs, our management software, and our contract administrator back in our office pulls all that together for this report. So the project managers also do the full update on the schedules and produce this. So, we'll have those. They do it every Monday. They do a schedule update. So they do basically, it's a lot easier to track activities if you're only looking back a week, right? And trying to figure out, hey, get the super, hey, what date did this happen? If you're only updating once a month, they're gonna have to look through a whole month's worth of log, and because our supers write everything down in their little superintendent books, and then so it's easier if you're just looking back for a week's worth to identify and say when exactly did this activity finish and when did this one start, and so we do that every Monday.
Rich, what role does Arcadis play in overseeing this kind of report?
We don't, we're not involved with them putting their report together, but we have daily reports that we put together, and when it comes to doing schedule reviews, we're actually sitting down with them on a bi-weekly basis to review. There's no schedule impacts now, so we're really not commenting, but if there are schedule impacts, then we're gonna do an analysis, and then we're gonna present that to you, to let you know, whether or not we believe that what they're saying is accurate to, to what we believe is reality.
And the financial piece?
The financial piece is the same thing, right? So, we're actually looking at, we look at all of the requisitions. They get signed off by Tecton, but we're reviewing them and we're giving them our feedback also. There was an issue with, I think, schedule of values that we were looking at on breaking down, the quantities. So we're providing that information, and then when it does come to changes, we are reviewing the changes. Of course, Tecton is, looking at them and signing off on them, but we're also giving them our feedback.
So there's checks and balances there to make sure that
At
all
every
the
step of the
numbers
way.
are the same.
Yeah.
That's
Are you policing change orders at all, like before they even come to us? Are you looking at that?
We are.
Making sure that, okay.
Yeah.
So the change order process, they come to us, we do our full review. Oftentimes, we will mark them up, maybe kick them back if there's too much red ink on them. If there's not, if there's just a few minor markups on there, then we'll discuss them with the sub. We may just redline them and recalculate a little bit. Once we have that ready and we're comfortable with it, we send it through to Tecton through a workflow for their review. At the same time, it goes to Arcadis for as a CC. Once Tecton has reviewed it and whether they approve it or revise and resubmit, it moves into Arcadis' court. They then have to do their own review and sign off on it. Either, again, sometimes it will be approved by Tecton and Arcadis will ask for something additional, so they'll say revise and resubmit. Sometimes it'll be revise and resubmit, and Arcadis will just say, yep, we agree with Tecton, Tecton's looking for different things than Arcadis is, so that, it's a double check on us for those things, and then it comes back to us. If it comes back revise and resubmit, we address whatever concerns there were, provide any additional backup that's requested, make any corrections, then we would resubmit them. Now, if Tecton has signed off on it, and it's Arcadis that asks for something different, we have a separate workflow that'll just, so we don't overburden Tecton with having its second review of something they've already looked at, goes just directly to Arcadis and comes back to us. But until it's signed by both parties, it will not come to this committee.
And then the process within this committee is it gets to Arcadis. Arcadis works with our working group and goes over it. They're going to make recommendations to us as to what they think. So before it gets to the full committee, it's been reviewed multiple times.
The changes that they presented to date are pretty straightforward. We haven't had any issues with, I see in the future that there could be some issues that we disagree on, and, we'll work through those, and, if we can't, then obviously we'll bring in the working group to, get their advice on that.
But if the committee wants more information, we're asking you to get that, or we're presenting it to you, and then you're chasing that down.
That's correct. Yeah, I mean, if it's gotten through the process and we give it to Dennis and to Chuck and they say, well, we're looking for some more because we're not convinced, then we'll take that and bring it back.
So on Tuesday, both Rich and I met virtually with Dennis and Chuck. We reviewed every single change order, and we will do that going forward. I will sit in on all those meetings and help explain every, a nuance of each and every change order. So these change orders don't leave my team's hands until I put eyes on them as well. So they have, again, multiple checks before they ever come to you to be seen. Doesn't mean something won't slip by all of us, and you might catch something and say, hey, what does this mean? And then we can always pull them back, find the proper documentation, get whatever you need for backup that makes this committee comfortable to approve it, and then move forward.
Is that Tuesday meeting a standard meeting time?
For the change orders, no, it's not. Actually, what happens is when the PCOs are reviewed, I send them out to Chuck and to Dennis, and then I'll send them a text and say, hey, when are you guys available to get on a call? Are you interested in getting on those calls? Or somebody from Tecton? Or?
I foresee, in the future, there's going to be
there could
points
be
in time when we're going to need to
yeah.
have a conversation. Sure.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that.
Yep.
So as we are just meeting once a month right now, and as we haven't received a ton of change orders, nothing that's super critical, again, I combined all the ones I wanted to present that were approved, and we met once. I could see in the future, and I have done in the past on jobs, a standing PCO, working group meeting, once a month, once a week. I've done them all, and then it just becomes similar to what we do with the first meeting of the month. Do we need to meet this day, right? And if we don't, we don't. And if we do have a PCOs that we need to review, we would review them. And then obviously, if it's a critical PCO, we would try to, obviously if it's the beginning of the month and it just showed up, it just came in, and we need to get it resolved, we would reach out to see if we could do a meeting and then ask for a specific, just do the second meeting or the second week of the month meeting to review those PCOs. But those would only be things that are critical to the schedule where it would cause, a delay to the schedule if we had to wait a whole month to get them approved. Typically, we don't see that because we try to forecast these issues as they come in. If an RFI comes in and there's potential cost, we immediately start chasing that. We put this change event in our log, and then we send it out to our subs and say, we need you, get us any pricing. If you see any pricing on this, if you feel like there's any additional cost here, do you get it to us so we can start that review process?
Any other comments or questions regarding the north end progress up to this point?
All right.
Jim Norton.
Yes. So you'll see this is very, very similar with the Norton. We'll go to the third page, which is actually page number 2 on here, but the fifth, counting each individual front and back. Again, you'll see here we had some more potential budget revisions come in, as well as some approved budget revisions. We had our original baseline budget. Obviously, this one, Norton was it was a smaller budget than North End, 63,304,112. That was what's carried in the GMP. With the approved budget revisions, you'll see that and potential budget revisions, our current budget GMP, because it does take into account the potential budget revisions to that, 63,308,772. Again, you can see our awarded contracts, 61,004,878, and our projected cost of 60,970,593. These are living numbers. They will continue to change every month as we do this report. But allowance funds available, 734,72, and contingency funds available, 1,604,107. Again, I'm not going to do go through every line like I did in the last one, but the next several pages, the same thing. It's basically what our requisition is based on, all the different line items. Again, owner change orders, CM in scope change order log, and then all the trade change orders, trade allowance log in there. On the Norton job, a couple of items here. You see a lot more is closed. They're doing it. This is how I would like to see both jobs do it, where they have each line item has an either item closed or an ongoing. The schedule items, electrical, mechanical contractors pulling their individual permits. Richards revised the excess topsoil proposal. Those are all closed items. We do it, and we will talk about this in a little bit, but topsoil testing at Mount Norton, as they're calling it, the large pile of 4,000 cubic yards of excess topsoil. We did receive the results. Those have been analyzed by Eagle Environmental, and unfortunately, we do have some, didn't get some great results on those. So most of the soil we'll be able to use on site. Some of the soil is going to have to leave the site and be disposed of through the proper means. So we're working on pricing that 2,000 plus or minus yards up right now to have that removed, and we will present the change order for that. And I think Rich will present on that actual report a little bit later. There's just update on the coordination. Now again, right now we have no cost or schedule impacts based on the coordination, so he just put in that the weekly meetings are at 9 a.m. Monday morning. If anyone's interested, you're more than welcome to join those coordination meetings. That we can send you the invite. It's a virtual meeting, and they run through the model of the building. They address any clashes. They address any hits or any issues they're having with all of the installed, the ductwork, piping, plumbing, mechanical piping, electrical, low voltage, things of that nature. Submittals, obviously critical submittal submission is ongoing. Critical submittal review is ongoing. Right now we're steel, hollow metal frames, storefronts, and AHUs, rooftop units, DOAs, all of those. Submittal schedule submission is ongoing. little bit better at Norton than we are at North with this. We have a few challenging subs that we're working on to get all the submittal document, their schedule information, so that we can provide that to the design team. They have been very good working with us on that, so we do appreciate that. Obviously, we're doing schedule of values and background check submissions that are ongoing, and then the Phase 1 short circuit coordination study resubmitted and approved, so that's a closed item. We have no outstanding RFIs on that project. Tecton's been doing a great job with their consultants, turning RFIs around very quickly for us. So you can see here, this is a little bit broader of a breakout. They have a little bit more going on over there. They've got their site work, what they have going on, underground excavations, Area D footprint, backfill the foundations, underground MEP excavation and backfill and complete in Area D and C. It's ongoing in Area A and B. Site drainage installation is ongoing, and then we did finally get the Sharon Drive Temp Electric to the trailer park completed. The concrete, we're forming and pouring footings and foundation walls in Area A has been completed, so that was the last of the footing and foundation walls that we have. Looking at pouring slabs, they did pour the slab for Area D on 4/9. Area C was poured 4/14. Our next slab of Area B is scheduled to be poured 4/28. And then Area C, the final slab pour is 5/14, all well ahead of the steel install. Plumbing, as you can see here, Area D and C sanitary install complete. Area D and C domestic water install is complete. Area D and C storm install is complete. So they basically have all the, all of that done, as well as in areas, for D and C, because obviously we need that done before the slab. Area A sleeve install is complete, and Area B and A sanitary and storm install is ongoing. So obviously that'll all get installed, inspected before any slabs are poured. And that's inspected both by TestCon, our inspecting agency, as well as the town. So Tom Lozier has been coming out quite often. He also has a few members of his team that have been coming out and doing the inspections as well. For electrical, we've got the D&C branch circuits install complete, Area D feeder circuits install complete, Area B branch circuit install is ongoing, and the 6-way meter installed at the CM trailer park, so that we can have any sub that wants to have power to the trailer. They pay for it on their own. It'll be tracked on their own meter, so they pay for all the power for that. Waterproofing, foundation dam proofing is complete in all areas. And then structural steel, we started erecting steel in Area D on Monday. As you can see, they're moving pretty quickly. They're doing a good job. Area C steel is scheduled for 5/13, B is 5/26, and Area A steel is 6/9. That is just, when we're talking about, that's when they're starting the main structural steel. What's happening in between those dates, and probably continuously through the middle of the summer, is going to be all of the detail work, the decking install, all of the welding and nuts, and making sure everything's done tight and signed off, and will be inspected by TestCon for all that. Jumping back to North End, just to give you an update, we're looking at a 5/14 start date for steel at North End. The reason these are different in schedules is because the North End schedule was set and issued in the bid prior to earlier than we did in the Norton, and my project team at Norton sat down and looked at the schedule. They saw an opportunity to pull that in a little bit. Did cause them to work a lot of Saturdays this spring, but it did get them about 3 weeks ahead of us in the North End for steel. Our end dates are going to be the same. Both schedules were built to be able to start the steel on 5/14. They were just able to pull it in by a few weeks due to shortening the amount of time that they needed for the underground. We couldn't do that on the North End because we had already received all our bids and issued the schedules. And if we did accelerate those, you could face claims from the subs for acceleration, right? And you have to say, no, we have to work Saturdays, we have to work manpower. My guys, they because the schedule was set early, the concrete guy worked about 6 Saturdays in a row to get ahead with the concrete. So, right? So,
I have a question.
yep.
I just think my jargon is different than the way you're presenting it.
Sure.
So I'm just curious, when you say branch circuit install complete under electrical items, what does that mean?
I'll have to double check that. I think that's all the underground electrical that is going up into the from the main switchgear, where the main switchgear is going to be, out to the electrical closets. So there's some of that. So I believe that's what it is, but I'll get confirmation on it for you, Chris. The project commentary, again, you can see, again, they address a lot of what I just talked about in there. A lot of similar things, and again, again, I'm working with the guys so that they understand a lot of what you saw in the cost and schedule impact was more appropriate for the project commentary. So we'll talk with them. The cost and schedule impact should really be stuff that is potential issues or potential impacts to the project or budget. And then the next 4 pages, but both sides, you'll see there's quite a bit more. What I would expect is, what I like to see is the pictures you see here as opposed to what we saw at North End. So I am working with that, with the engineers to better understand that. So you can see a lot of here. The 3rd page here is Mount Norton. That's our big stockpile of 4,000 cubic yards of topsoil that was removed from the site. You've got some courtyards west. Now this is these were all taken on 3/14, so between then and now, obviously a lot has happened. So what I've talked to the guys about is I'd like to see these pictures right around the end of the month. Even though we're presenting at the end of the following month, this is going to be, the report's going to be for the previous month of the meeting. All right, so, but you can see, a lot has changed based on just what you saw in the open space just now versus what you see here. A lot less concrete in the ground in 3/14 than we have here. So going forward, like I said, I talked to the guys, I want something that's much closer to the end of the month so we have, an accurate reflection of everything that was completed in March.
If we're meeting 4th week of the month, is there any way of getting it, say like 3rd week pictures?
So the problem is we start developing this the 1st week of the month, right? And so that's why, so that's why typically our meetings aren't, in the past, we haven't had the meetings this late in the month, but that's why, so.
Just doing the math.
Yep.
We are putting some pictures up on the website. You can check those, and I think just yesterday, the day before, when I visited the site, I took some pictures and forwarded those to committee members. So hopefully we can get some, up-to-date things, and then the open space.
Yeah, I encourage everybody to, take a look at open space. I'll get everybody on there if they want, and it's a great way to track the project, the progress of the project, because you get live, literally. As right now, it'll be every week you'll get an update and you can see the changes. And like I said, you could stand in one position and go back 3, 4, 5, 8 weeks, whatever it is, throughout the whole project eventually. Because the AI tries to, depending on the walk, but the AI tries to establish the same spots where the pictures are taken from.
Well, we're at a point right now too where it's a lot of fun to just go and stand and watch.
Yeah.
As the steel is going up. I was amazed how quickly they were putting some of those units in there and how adept those guys are at
Oh, yeah.
moving that steel up and over and in place. I was amazed. Any other comments or questions on this? Ryan had said the schedule, which he ran off, we concluded together, and I assume everyone would agree that we don't need this every single month in a paper form. But if it's something that people really want, we can do it, but it's a lot of paper.
A lot of trees dead to do this, so I'd prefer not to kill them. So we will do a full electronic version of the schedule update every month, and so you'll see that.
Forward that to you.
Yep.
And then do the shorter version that we'll discuss here. But if anyone wants a paper copy of it, we can make arrangements for that.
Yep.
Other comments or questions? So in the end, we are on schedule at both sites.
Yes.
And that's key piece.
Very healthy budget.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, architects,
All right.
design update.
How much design? Mostly construction administration.
Our 2 people that are on the materials and finishes working group are not here, but I don't believe that group has had any issues yet to deal with.
No.
That's not.
There's no bid approvals today, right?
No, I'm done.
You're done. Okay. So I can take that off for good? That's not?
Yes.
Until we get to furniture and
Yeah.
stuff like that. So I'll remove that. I just wanted to take a second. FF&E, is there any update on that at this point, Vince?
Other than the Darcy visit that we, did with Anna and Nicole from Tecton to plan or start to strategize, that's the only update that I have. We will be meeting at some point in the future when we're ready.
You've
So-
identified a group for that?
Yes.
Okay. I'll put that on each month just so that you can keep us up to date. All right, administrative summaries?
When do we find, when are the meetings for that FFA group?
We haven't set them yet.
Oh,
We're working to set the meetings. Ideally, the meetings would occur between now and, the end of the school year, or.
But that's
you
your
know,
working group with like the people from the
Yes,
schools?
that's up for us to get the FF&E package together, and then I think Justin articulated that we'll take probably the summer and come back in the fall, and you'll go through that same process. We'll review it. We got to go the same process with the Board of Ed. You get building committee, you have to take the votes, then go to the state. So I think our target is fall to get that basically summed up.
Or in the summer months, you'll be giving us those same updates that we
Yeah.
had from the summer?
Yeah, we'll give you updates on our progress with the FF&E, the selections, kind of the budgeting, that kind of stuff. Yep. All right, good evening, everyone. Jeff Wazinski, Principal of Tecton, got Laura here with an AU, not an OR. So the first packet that should be on the top is the north end. I'm gonna be brief because I know Ryan went over a lot of the construction, but just to summarize, we're doing pretty well with the RFIs and getting them in and getting them back as far as what responses. The past 14 days or so, we've received about a dozen submittals on the north end, in total 342. We're keeping up with those as well. We've been trying to track during the weekly construction progress meetings, we've been tracking the critical submittals, making sure that we respond to those first, obviously. PCOs, 3 over the last couple weeks. I know Rich is going to go over some of the details of that, so I'll leave that to him. But most of them are change orders related to the allowances that were in ONG's contract. Change orders, none to date. Applications for payment, so typical of the first phase. This phase, we've also been reviewing the applications for payment, pencil rec, making our markups, sending them back. ONG's been making the revisions and then submitting the final pay app. The meetings, a handful of meetings, OAC, basically every other week, bi-weekly. And then the BIM coordination meetings. So various different team members have been attending those, whether it's obviously always Tecton, but also Kohler Ronan, sometimes Benesh, the site civil, those kinds of consultants. Supporting site visits, now that we're starting to move along, Benesh has been out a few times, Kohler Ronan's been out for the under slab kind of reviews. Their frequency is going to pick up a little bit, just now that more work is occurring. So we'll coordinate with ONG and Arcadis on the appropriate times to have those walkthroughs. And then as steel goes up, we'll have Michael Horton out as well to look at the steel erection. Obviously, Norton's ahead of North End at the moment. We do not have any pending bulletins, any MEP coordination items or material selections at the time for North End. So in your packet, I won't go over all the detail, but the first page is we track, similar to ONG, we track all the PCO-related items just so that we can understand where we are contractually. You have Kohler Ronan's report. If you read some of the concerns that were identified in any of these reports, they've already been addressed, either via RFI or communication directly with ONG. So they go out there and they observe the progress of construction, make statements, and then we issue these reports back through ONG, through A-Connect. So you'll see Kohler Ronan's, you'll see our field reports, and they'll, similar to ONG's monthly report, these will get more detailed as the construction progresses. And what else can I tell you? Benesh's reports in there as well. And again, if there were any issues identified, they've been remediated already, to my knowledge, so there's no outstanding items there. And then as about halfway through or so, you'll see, because I think we missed this, it's been a month since we last met, so you have the other report here. We won't go over that. Same format, same structure. I guess long story short on all of these, I'm happy to answer any questions on the detail, but long story short on all of these is we're keeping up with RFIs, keeping up with submittals, and we're coordinating pretty well with the entire team. And Ryan knows, we have a good communication stream between Laurel, Alberto, and Justin. So things are moving along, and if we see things that are of concern, they correct them. So things are going well. The other report that was underneath the north end was for Norton. Same format. This one's a little further along, as Ryan had mentioned. The RFI's not much more, but around 65 in total. Consistent with what we see for this level of project. Submittals are creeping up now on 196, so we've been keeping up with those, I think, fairly well. All the critical submittals, same story. We addressed those first. PCOs, we're up to 10 total, looked at 6 overall. Most of those were allowance reviews, just making sure that the scope, time, and material was correct. And then the applications for payment, you can see there that we did a pencil copy. So you see the rhythm there of the pencil copy going in at the end of March and then being returned, a week later. So that's the normal process. That's what we'll do every month. And that's, I think, expected is we all talk about what percent complete. Meetings, the virtual meetings, OAC bi-weekly, again, I think one's in the morning-ish for North End and one's in the afternoon, so they're all in the same day. We get out, I think, every other week at the moment. We'll probably pick up that frequency as well. We've been attending the BIM coordination meetings. I think most of those have been going well. And we've also been on not only the coordination meetings with the Regional Water Authority about some of these water meter vaults, but also the soil meeting as well. So I think the entire team's been on these coordination meetings to discuss the open items. The site visits, Kohler Run has been out and TechCon's been out. I think the niche is in the next.
No, they're there too. It was just the same date.
Yeah, same date, okay. Oh, I didn't see that. So all three of the relevant parties from the design team have been out. The reports are there. Again, if you see a comment that was of concern to us, it's already been addressed. It's past tense. So I think we've been having very good communication. No real concerns overall. Halfway through is the same thing. It's the previous report. We will lock down the dates and get you a schedule for the FF&E, so at least you'll have something in your hand to look at to know what our progress is there. I'll talk to Justin about that, but I know Anna and Nicole have been out, did an inventory, and have started, formulating some of the design-related items for FF&E. So, Laurel, do you have any? I know that was kind of quick, but happy to answer any questions, but I don't want to duplicate.
Quick question.
Yeah, sure.
On your potential change law,
For which project?
either one,
Okay, yep.
the approved or rejected, that's the tech one, approved or rejected.
That is correct, yep, that is correct, yeah. Yeah, we like to track because in some instances, as we move along, there'll be several reviews of a change order, and we want to track where it started, what we said, what the revision was, if there's another one, so that's why we do that in that fashion. So, yep. Any other questions?
Any other comments or questions? I point out to the committee the OAC meetings that take place every other week. I believe, Vin, have you been to all of them? I think it's pretty much. And Jeff Solon, I've been to some of them. I've had conflicts, but as we head towards the spring, towards the summer, I plan on sitting in on all those too. Very well run. I got a real good feel that they have a handle on everything that's going on, all the submittals and everything else. Yeah, very efficient meetings, and a good team effort. Everybody working together.
Those are both in person and virtually. So if anybody would like to be invited to the virtual, so you can sit in or put it in the background while you're at your work or at home, or if you would like to come and attend in person, you're more than welcome to as well. So just let me know and I'll add you to the invites.
Okay, anything else, sir? And moving right along. Owner's rep budget update.
Okay, so in your pile of papers, there is there's a small handout that's got the budgets. The top one is Norton, it's in red. And we haven't, the budget hasn't changed. What we encumbered at the last meeting is still the same as what it was. So we've encumbered the GMP, the architect's services are encumbered, the owner's rep services are encumbered. Those are the three big encumbrances that the project has incurred to date. You have also incurred some various testing things and other consultants along the way. So those are the smaller encumbrances. I think the next big ones that you're going to come to see are going to be the FF&E and technology. But I will tell you that we've gone through the specifications and we've noted that there are certain testing requirements that the design team has asked for, and we are starting to put together a list of the things that we know we're going to have to go out and ask for RFPs on. For instance, window testing and things like that. So that will be coming before you eventually. So that's Norton. The same is true for the north end. No difference there either. That's in blue. Actually, if you flip back to the page before that, you'll see how we track what the owner's contingencies are. We haven't changed that. Those are pretty standard. I think what we did when we encumbered the O&G GMP is we didn't drop anything to the owner's contingency. We created another line item that says bid savings contingency. So in the budget, you'll see that there's the owner's contingency and then there's a bid savings contingency, just so that we can kind of track what the savings were from the cost estimate was to the actual buyout of the GMP. Eventually, you know, if the building committee feels so inclined, we can combine the two into just one line item for owner's contingency. Questions on the budget?
North End, we have $10 million in the bank.
Yeah. Yeah.
We,
Yeah, the bid savings was pretty substantial. Not the project we needed it on, but, you know, we're doing okay.
take every minute.
That's right. Yeah, we had a good owner's contingency to start with on North End, and then the bid savings was almost equal to it. Actually, more than equal to it. Okay, next item is the invoices. I think we have 4 invoices for each school. There's a separate package for each.
And you flip the numbers.
Did we flip the numbers?
Yes. The north end for ONG is actually 2814. And Norton for
Okay.
ONG is actually 3229.
Okay. We will adjust that.
Please.
Absolutely.
So what happened here?
We,
This number belongs here. This
Yeah.
number belongs here.
Oh, okay.
That's just a summary.
Not close. Yeah.
yeah, that's true. Yeah, it got ended up on the summary
Yeah,
sheet.
that's right.
Okay. So I'll start with the north end.
That's true.
We have invoice 12352 for testing services, Testcon Incorporated, $729. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second? Second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Unanimous. We have invoice 360222416, Owners Representative Services, Arcadis, $10,072.30. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
So moved. Second? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Unanimous. So this one now,
Yeah, you've got to read it from the blue sheet.
yep, Payment number, application number 8, construction manager, O&G, $2,814,566.20. Do I have a motion? Dennis, second? Any discussion there? All those in favor? Unanimous. And the fourth one, invoice 48122, architectural services, Tecton Architects, $47,628. Motion?
Second.
Second? Any discussion? All those in favor? Very good. For Norton Elementary, invoice 23688, environmental consultant, Eagle Environmental, $1,181.25.
So moved.
Seconded. Discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous. Invoice 360-22413, owner representative services Arcadis, $10,903.40.
So moved.
Seconded. Discussion? All those in favor? Good. Now we'll go back to the other paper here. Payment number 8, construction manager, O&G, $3,229,281.75. Do I have a motion? Dennis, second? Second. Chris? Discussion? No. All those in favor? And lastly, architectural services, invoice 48123, Tecton Architects, $41,240. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second, Dennis? Any discussion? All those in favor? And unanimous. Very good. All right, Rich, it's back to you.
Okay, so now we also have some PCOs, potential change orders that Ryan kind of previewed. And we will take the north end first. Okay, so we have PCOs 3, 4, and 5. Let me preface this by saying that none of these are going to change the GMP. This is all within the GMP. It's just a matter of reviewing them, the building committee feeling comfortable with them and then approving them. But they're either coming out of either the CM allowances that Laurel had kind of made a list of when she presented the GMP, the trade allowances, or the GMP contingency, correct?
Right.
Okay, all right. So the first item is PCO number 3, and that is for $49,803. Ryan, do you want to?
Yeah, I'll jump in here. All right, so on the plans, there's a meter pit shown for coming off of Marion Drive. That's where your main water and fire are going to tie into the street and tie into the building at the north end. In our discussions and meetings with the RWA, they identified that they're also at the Jarvis Street entrance, we have the fire line loop tying into the water main in Jarvis Street. At the time, that was not shown on the drawings, but the RWA is requiring a meter pit at that location as well. So the $49,803 is a combination. If you go to the second page, you'll see the breakout of all of that. So that is the cost for Richards to purchase and install a meter pit. It's like an 8x8 concrete vault. So they have their labor and material in there. And then the RWA is their fee to do all the tie-ins at the road, excavation, police protection of the, in controlling the road. That is $31,639.13. And then obviously Richards has their markup on those items. Because this is coming out of a CM allowance, O&G is not allowed markup on it, but Richards is allowed their markup on this because this is a straight extra to them. It's not part of what was included in their contract. As part of the backup, we do have the letter from the Regional Water Authority. They also do a very good job of breaking out all of the costs that total up to that $31,639.13. So there's a description of work for them in here. They're going to install the 6-inch fire service, from the 12-inch main on Jarvis Street, plus or minus 20 feet, to the meter manhole with single check detector assembly on the fire service, the contractor to install the manhole and service to the building. The proposed 6-inch service is to be interconnected with the proposed 6-inch fire tap off of Marion Road. So there's a whole, they give the whole breakdown of their labor materials, any equipment on here. Now, one thing that was asked by Chuck, and I'm not sure if it was Chuck or Dennis in our meeting on Tuesday, is this says is an estimate. The reason they call this an estimate is because they can't tell if they're gonna run into any rock, frost, anything like that in the street. So if they do not run into any of this, this becomes a hard number and we will pay this. If they were to run into rock and they had to mechanically, remove it or blast it or whatever, they would charge more for that, but we don't anticipate that. They don't anticipate that, but that's just the way they write anything they do. Until the work is done, they won't say this is a final number, but they have assured us in our meetings with the RWA that unless they run into some major unforeseen, this will be your final number for this added pit. So this, like I said, was not originally called for on the drawings, but it is something the RWA is requiring. So included in this backup, you will see all of the items from RWA, as well as the United Concrete's quote for the vault, as well as labor rates and equipment rates that Richards provided. That you will see in here, they gave all the equipment rates, so the backup all of the rates they're carrying in that.
Chuck and Dennis, your recommendation?
We're okay with that.
And we need a motion to approve, exactly what am I looking at?
PCO 3.
PCO 003 in the amount of $49,803.
If to come out of CM allowance number 2.
To come out of the CM allowance. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Dennis, second? Chuck? Any discussion? All those in favor? It's unanimous. Okay.
Okay, if you scroll through the pages, you'll see after quite a few pages, we'll get to PCO number 4.
Yep, okay.
So PCO number 4 we titled it Allowance Number 31 Water Service Connection Fee, Richards. So in Richards' contract for both projects, or in the site contract, we did require them to carry a $40,000 allowance to use to pay towards the RWA's fees for the water line at for the water service at the Marion Drive entrance. So if you can see in the breakout of the costs, we carry a negative. Every allowance will show up as a negative to start, and then when we bill against it, it becomes a positive. So it says site work negative 40,000. That's the original value they carried in their project. The $40,000 you'll see here is the majority of the costs that RWA is charging for the Marion Street water meter vault installation. The 1,236 is the overage of the water meter or RWA's fees to do that work. So their total fees were, if we look in the backup, $41,176.86. Richards is entitled to a 5% markup on that. That's why it comes to $1,236. That overage of the $40,000, the $1,236 also comes out of CM number 2, our utility allowance. So if you go to the backup, you can see the first change order from Richards 1A is the original $40,000 they're billing to go against their allowance. Then we have all of the regional water authorities documentation. A little farther along, you will find Richards change order 1B. This is that $1,176.86 of overage from the Regional Water Authority, plus their markup of $58.84 for a total of $1,235.70. As we discussed originally in the early meetings, if it's 50 cents or above, we round up to the nearest dollar, or 49 cents or below, we round down. And then again, it's the same documents from the Regional Water Authority as the backup. We always do, carry the backup for each item on there. So that is the sum total of that cost for PCO 4.
Once again, Chuck and Dennis, your recommendation?
We're good with that one.
You're okay with that? Okay. So we need a motion then for PCO 004 for $41,236. Once again, come from the CM allowance.
Number 2. CM allowance number 2.
What number? two?
CM allowance.
CM allowance number 2.
Oh, CM, I'm sorry, CM allowance number 2,
Let's,
okay. Okay,
I'll second.
Chuck, Dennis? All right, any discussion on that?
The way it's written here, only 1,000 of that is coming from the CM allowance number 2. But we're
Correct.
saying the whole amount is, or?
Nope, just
Just-
1,236.
Yeah, because the original 40,000 was
That-
already the GMP.
That's in the
it's
trade
like a
allowance.
trade allowance.
That's in the sub's total contract value, yes.
But the change order is still for 41.
To the sub.
To the sub, the hit to the CM allowance number 2 is only $1,236.
Okay. All right. You got that? Okay. Discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Unanimous. Very good.
All right, and the last one for the north end is PCO number 5. This is the furnish of the meter pit for Marion Street. So when Richards bid the project, on the contract drawings, the site contract drawings, there was a square and it said meter pit or meter vault up by Marion Drive, but there was no additional information in there. There wasn't any sketches or details for that meter pit. There was no specifications for that provided at that time. That was caught after the North bid, prior to the Norton bid. So on Norton, there was a sketch provided by Benesh, I believe, as well as information on that meter vault. But unfortunately, Richards did not carry that meter vault itself in their bid for the north end. They carried all of the labor and everything to install it, but it wasn't clear whether that vault was going to be provided as part of the regional water authority's work, or if that was something that Richards was to carry. So during the scope review, they did identify that they did not carry the vault itself. This is the concrete 8x8 structure. So this change order is for $9,329. That is the cost of the vault itself, which is $8,112, and then Richards is entitled to a markup of 15% on that vault. So the total value of this change order is $9,329. Now, in discussions with Rich, when him and I talked about this, we determined that this could have gone one of two ways. We could have gone one of three ways, right? We could have done it as a CM utility allowance draw. We could have done it as a CM contingency, GMP contingency draw. Or we could have looked to do this to an owner contingency. Since this was not technically shown on the drawings, the question should have been asked, what is the details for this? Who owns this? Whatnot, as a pre-bid. It didn't happen. So at that time, it was not captured in the pre-bid. So that's why we determined that this would be considered a buyout issue, right? I mean, I think that's what you and I determined that the best way to handle this was a buyout issue, and that is almost the definition of what the CM contingency, or part of what the CM contingency is for things that may have been missed during the buyout. What I will say about this is that you did not pay for this already. So if the information had been in the contract, you would have paid for this exact same amount for this. There is no additional fluffing of it. You couldn't have got a better number out of Richards for this if they did it at the bid. All they are doing for this is the direct cost from United Concrete, which would have been the same at the bid time, and their same markup at it. And to be honest with you, 15%, a lot of the subs carry higher than that in their bids. They don't tell us what their markup is in their bids. They take the chance. If they want to carry 50% markup, that's their risk of maybe not getting the job. So this may actually have been a better number overall. If if they carried a flat 20% markup on all of their bid and still won the job, right, then this would have been a little bit higher in their number. But since they didn't carry it, they're getting strictly the cost for the piece of structure and just their 15% markup.
Does this set a, I'm not gonna sugarcoat it, does this set a precedent that there was something on the drawings that wasn't clear, and subcontractor X didn't ask what it was and assumed incorrectly that it wasn't for them, and therefore we now have to pay for it even though the engineer thought it was there?
So
You're saying it was there, it did say vault, one could argue it's there. We didn't say existing vault, we said vault.
Right, but there was no information for them to use to price off of, right? So that is part of the.
But if it's
right.
not their first time pricing things, they should know that, hey, there's no, if they know there's not enough information to price it, didn't we have an RFI period?
Yes, there was a pre-bid RFI period, but
So-
none of the contractors bidding the job did ask that question. So that was not something that was identified as an issue.
But again, are we said if, just mob rules isn't what I'm getting at here. I mean, just because they all did something and maybe all missed it and all made a mistake and didn't ask an RFI, what I'm saying is, does that set a precedent that if they all decide not to ask an RFI for something that is on the drawing, does that mean we didn't pay for it just because they all decided that they didn't want to ask an RFI for something that was labeled on the plans? Am I making a mistake?
I think there's one difference and distinct difference, is that my understanding is that they clarified during the scoping, before they were awarded the contract, that they did not include the cost associated with the material only.
Correct.
So, and the way that I interpret the contracts is the scoping meeting minutes then become part of their contract. So I think, I agree with where you were headed, but the big difference is that they clarified it prior to award. It's written contractually and bound into their contract.
So if there's something else down the road that wasn't discussed in the scoping, then what I'm saying is we're having a different discussion.
I would probably be having a different discussion.
But
Case
the-
by case basis.
But the point that you
Thanks, I appreciate it.
the point that you do bring up, though, is the reason why we decided that it should come out of their GMP contingency, which is why they carry a GMP contingency. It was something that was
Right.
on the drawings, but it was not bought out scope. So,
But that's still our money. It's
Yes.
it's
Correct.
still change order money.
The
Correct.
counterpoint, that's a good argument, but we could have lost $10,000 in the bid if the contractor really wanted the project. I mean, this is fine, because
Right.
we talked about it on Tuesday, but as,
Yeah, no,
Precedent.
I understand what you're saying, and again, I would go back to what Jeff said, is they did identify this prior to being awarded the contract as something that was missed. That we knew that this was gonna be coming down, they did just charge for the cost, and again, like I said before, is you are not paying for this twice, right? Because you would have had to pay for, if they had the information, their bid would have been $8,000, $9,000 plus more dollars than what it was when it came in, right? So they clearly said this. Now, I will say that there probably will be some change orders that come through to this committee that may not have, it may be something that was not shown on the drawings, or it may be something that was shown on the drawings that we didn't capture and buy out from one of the subs. And it may be something that, again, the subs don't make any assumptions when they're doing bids. They bid strictly what's shown on the drawings. And again, we do a lot of attempts to clarify ownership of all scope of work in there. We're not perfect. There may be some things that slip through the cracks that didn't get assigned to one contractor or the other. They were shown on the drawings. It's not that Tecton didn't show them or one of their consultants, but we may have missed buying that out. We don't know of anything like that right now. We have done as much as we can, but I can't say for sure that this won't come up again. But this one specifically, yeah, it'll come up again. So, but this one specifically we were able to identify prior to the bid, so we knew this one was coming in.
Again, this one's clearly different because it was discussed before.
Yes.
Thank you
Dennis
for,
and Chuck, your recommendation on this?
yeah, so in your tabulation of PCOs, you had Ganesh as responsible, so is this Ganesh strike one?
No. I don't,
no, that was the meter pit.
No,
no,
bid, I'm
no,
okay.
I don't think this is a responsibility of the design.
Okay, because that's what you wrote.
Yeah, I don't think it is. Yeah, I'm not sure who put that in there, maybe Justin. I think this is if it hadn't been clarified, I guess our position would have been, then you had to have carried a value for something.
Right.
But
No,
they clarified
I
it,
get that.
and I think what was presented, I think we're in agreement.
Yeah, we ended up in agreement that
Yeah.
this was legitimate,
Yeah.
Okay. And I need a
but it's
motion.
still strike one.
Okay.
We'll keep it score.
What's that?
We'll keep score.
Yeah,
Keep
you keep
score.
score.
So a motion for PCO 005, for $9,329 come out of the CM GMP contingency. So moved. Second? Chuck? Any discussion? Seeing none? All those in favor? Okay, unanimous. All right. Norton.
So in Norton, we have we have 4 PCOs that we're going to review. PCOs 6, 8, 9, and 10.
Okay, PCO 6, this is CM trailer temp generator costs. So if you recall a couple of meetings ago, we discussed getting a temporary generator to power the construction trailer from the period when we had to mobilize on site until Eversource was able to get us power to the site. This is not, unfortunately, this is strictly a Eversource could not meet what they had originally told us in their schedule, and also we had to get a bunch of underground done in there, and so the challenges of how do you get presence on site and management on site in the middle of January without power, and so fortunately at North End we had the house, it was already powered, we had power coming to it, and so that is that we didn't have that issue there, but so this is the cost for Custom Electric to provide a generator, basically rent us a generator for about 7 weeks. That's the $9,000, and I'll go through that individually. And then the $4,061 is the trade contract or site contractor providing the fuel for that generator. This is all coming out of our CM allowance number 2 at Norton, which is our temporary power, temporary fuel cost, temporary water cost, a lot of those items that we carry in that contract, in that allowance. So if we go to the next page, you'll see the breakdown here for the Custom Electric costs, and all of the information is in the backup. So a month rental of the generator is $3,200. I did look at whether or not it would be cheaper to pay by the week for the second month, because we didn't do a full month, but it ended up being more expensive if you paid by the week. So instead of doing 1 month and then 3 weeks, we paid for 2 months, so that's $6,400. Then the generator needs to be serviced every 250 running hours. So over that 7 weeks, we ran it for roughly, I think it was 900 and something hours. So that's 250 times 4. That's where you get the $2,000. And then it's a $300 charge to bring it to the job site and a $300 charge to bring it back from the job site. So if you go into the backup for Custom, you'll see they have the date out and date in. And there's a small sheet here that gives you all those breakdowns. The daily rate of $458 for the rental, the weekly rate of $1,295, and then the monthly of $3,200. The date out that this was delivered to the site, I think the pages are backwards actually, was 2/4, so February 4th is the day that we got that the generator onto the site, and it went back into or Custom took it away from the site on March 21st. So a little less than 3 weeks, but as soon as you do 1 day, you're into the 3rd week. You have to pay for that 3rd week. Again, when I did the numbers, it didn't suss out to do it less than 2 months. And then there's information here where they explain that there is to rent the unit for 1 month and run it for 40 to 50 hours a week. They actually let us run it 24/7 during the whole time, which we had to do to keep the data and everything running in there. So again, the next item here is the PCO 7 from Richards, and this is part of the same PCO.
Oh, it is?
Yeah. This is the site contractor's portion. So this is the fuel charges. What you'll see on here is they had 934.6 gallons of fuel put into the generator. Total cost $3,531, and again, they have their markup of $530. That's how you get to the $4,061.37. And as we do, we round down for that. And in the backup, they have every invoice for all of the fuel that they purchased for that all the way through.
If I can just jump in here for a second, Ryan. So Ryan said that there was a PCO number 7.
That's what I'm looking for.
Right, so there's a difference between PCO number 6, which is an O&G PCO, to the building committee. They also track PCOs per trade. So it gets a little confusing, but there's a PCO number 7, I think, was it to Richards?
Yes.
To Richards, because
So-
there was 6 other PCOs they gave to Richards.
not
Has nothing
something
to
we
do
need
with
to
us.
act on.
Nope, you don't need to act on it.
That's-
No,
no.
that's what they issue to us, so we can track all of their changes that they issue to us. So a lot of times you'll see Richards might have 2 or 3 change orders that I will include, 2 or 3 of their PCOs to me, that I will bundle and issue as one O&G PCO to this committee.
Dennis and Chuck, your recommendation?
We're okay with that too.
Okay with that one? So we need a motion for PCO 006 for $13,061 to come out of CN allowance number 2 MEP type service.
Make a motion.
And second, any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? All right.
So we'll jump to PCO number 8 now. This is the credit for misinterpretation of roof construction materials. Laurel had identified this through the scope review with Greenwood, our second low bidder prior to us. Did we disqualify the low bidder, right? So during the scope review, I believe that Greenwood identified that they had carried the wrong material in the roofing for Norton. I think there was an addendum. Was there an addendum that revised the roofing?
There was addendum that revised the roofing for both schools, and then North End, it was reflected, but for some reason.
They didn't catch it. It resulted in a $142,000 or $142,468 credit offered by Greenwood for the difference in what they carried versus what the addendum required to be installed at both schools. And like Laurel said, at North End, the person doing their estimate caught that change, and the one that was doing their estimate at Norton, 2 different guys for the same company, he missed it, right? So they included a higher price in their bid to us for material that was not going to be used. When we did the review in our scope review, they honestly said, they came forth and said, hey, we carried too much money, we're going to give you back, because we're not going to supply what we carried, we're going to supply what was in the addendum, we're going to return this. Laurel carried that in our CM allowance number, and if we go to 4 pages back from what the cover page here, allowance number 3, she carried a credit from the roofing contractor's misinterpretation of roof construction, and that created a negative allowance, which is not, it's okay when you're putting together the GMP, but because it's a public bid, right, and all that, we can't make this change until after we award the contract, after the GMP is issued, because we can't.
Now, that's 88,000.
Yep, negative 88,468.
Versus the 142.
Yeah,
So-
hang on.
You got,
I swear I got confused.
So, Rich, you want to take it from here?
Yeah, so we needed to actually take that 142 from Greenwood and put it into the allowance, because it was carried as a negative, right? But in fact, we were taking that money from Greenwood's contract and we were moving it over to the allowance. So Greenwood got a negative PCO, or change order, and the allowance got a positive change order, which then created $54,000 that was available in the allowance. So you're actually going from negative $88,000 to positive $54,000 because of the 142 that gets moved over. And
And
it's
to pay
basically
for
an
those other-
accounting function.
It's
It's
to pay for the
accounting.
7,000, the 10,000, and 37, there's other things in there.
Yep. So when we did our scope clarifications, yeah.
That's what it took me for a while to get up.
When we did our original scope clarifications prior to meeting with Greenwood, some of the other things we identified was we had to furnish, install roof curbs at the kitchen, walk-in cooler, and freezer. That was something that when we spec'd the, was it the kitchen supplier or maybe the HVAC contractor, they didn't carry that in their contract. So we carried, nobody carried those curbs for the condensing units, right, for the walk-in cooler freezer. So we carried a number of $7,000 in this allowance to cover any costs that come in for that. We also carried $10,000 for heating foundation walls as needed to install damp proofing, because we were going to be installing the majority of the concrete in the wintertime, and that wasn't something that was identified and carried, so we carried some money just in case we did have to heat those walls in order to put the damp proofing in. And then we also carried $37,000 because during the scope review with several of our contractors, there was, in some of the elevations in the area of 2D, let's say the east side or the right side of the hallway had very clear details of finishes on those walls. I know it wasn't marked typical at the time, or the subs didn't understand that it was supposed to be typical for both sides of the hallway. So there was a bulletin, so they identified, say, we missed this, we didn't carry this in our contract. Tecton issued a bulletin that was to be used after the bid, and we carried $37,000 to cover any cost that may be incurred, you know, based on what our discussions were with Tecton when they clarified. It wasn't a miss in the drawings, it was just a clarification in the drawings. Our bidders missed it, and all our bidders missed it. So we carried this number to cover that cost because we knew there was going to be incurring cost. So those three numbers that we knew about equaled to $54,000. We had a $54,000 allowance, but then we found out about this big credit coming back. We had to put it somewhere, so we put it in that allowance, which reduced it to a negative $88,000. This change order is just an accounting thing to return that money into the allowance and then get us back to $54,000 that we know we need to spend or potentially spend to cover some of these things that were missed during the buyout.
And you
Good
guys,
luck with that.
and you guys thoroughly endorse that, right?
Yes, it made sense after,
After
thought
the-
about it long and hard, and
told
explained
you.
it a couple times.
All right, then we need a motion, PCO 008 for $142,468, a credit to go into the CM allowance number 3, scope clarification.
So moved.
So moved. Second, discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Okay, PCO number 9 is Richard's allowance number 31 on Norton. It's very similar to North End. This is their water utility fee overage. As discussed at North End, we instructed them to carry $40,000 to cover as much of this as we could anticipate. When we did get the actual estimate from the RWA, it came in for $47,000. It came in for $47,393.03. So the first $40,000 is covered by Richard's allowance that they carried in their contract. The additional $7,763, which is made up of the overage of. Sorry, let me get to the right page here. The overage of $7,393.03 from the Regional Water Authority, and Richard's $369.65 of markup, their 5% markup, for a total of $7,763 will be taken out of the CM allowance number 2, which is our temp services utility allowance, to cover that portion of the bill that is an overage.
So is the change order then is for the 7,000?
Correct, that is what will be taken from the allowance.
The rest is the trade. I think there's a error on the sheet though, it looks like it's off by 30 hours, right? Should be 47,393 total, it's only 47,763, is that right?
No, 47,393 was the Regional Water Authority's bill to us. Richards is entitled to a 5% markup above and beyond. So Chuck, if you go into the backup, 6B, Richards PCO to us to ONG 6B. Keep going.
Yeah, I gotcha, I remember this one.
Nope, you went a little too far, sorry. You're looking for something that looks like this, Chuck?
Yeah.
Yep, that one there on your left hand. If you look at the bottom, you'll see the overage from the utility, $7,393.03, and then Richard's markup of $369.65 for a total of $7,762.68, which we round up to $772.63.
Yeah, I forgot the 5% or whatever was
Yep.
only on the extra 7,700.
Yes.
And Dennis and Chuck, you approve those? Yes. You recommend it? Okay, and we need a motion for PCO 009 for $7,763 to go into CM allowance number 2 and include temp. So moved, second? Chuck? All those in favor? And it's unanimous.
All right, and the last one is PCO number 10. This is the excess topsoil testing. If you recall, we brought the original proposal from or estimate from the testing agency for this topsoil. This is what we affectionately call Mount Norton. That's about 4,000 cubic yards, as well as an additional 3,000 cubic yards. Some of it is in another smaller stockpile, and some of it was not out of the ground at the time, has now been added to the stockpile. So we have roughly, what do we have, 7,500 or something like that total cubic yards?
I thought it was more than that. I think it was closer to 10. Well, there was 7,500 on this one, and I think the other one, the pond one had another 1,200.
So 8,500 yards total, cubic yards total. So this was to come out and test this soil to see if it was clean and could be removed from the site completely, if it was polluted, which we can reuse on site, or contaminated, which is material that cannot be reused, has to be taken away and disposed of with the proper, qualifications, EPA and DEP requirements. So the testing, originally they gave us line item costs. Basically, if you go to the second page, the back of the second page, you can see on here they gave them different, unit cost, $1,000 per visit for samples taken. The analytical of $929 per sample. They estimated 12. They ended up taking 14. The summary letters for each visit, each time they do a set of samples, it's $1,000 for that. And then they have because this is not a permanent installation, it is taxable. So they had shown what their tax, what was on there. If we go back to the back of the first page, this is Richard's breakdown of that. Now, Richards did have to assist with this sample taking. They spent about 4 hours with them, with a excavator and the operator. So they have a small amount of costs in here, about $1,390 with their markup on their work. Then most of the cost for this came from the actual company that took the samples. They did their 3 samples at $1,000 per trip, so that was $3,000. They had the 14 samples that we talked about at $929, came out to $1,306, and then the 3 sample letters that they provided, $3,000, for a total of $19,006 from the testing agency, and then Richards is entitled to a 5% markup on that, so that was $950.30. Grand total with Richards, their direct cost for their labor and equipment, and the cost for the subcontractor that they hired there came in at $21,346.10.
So that's a total bill now
For the
all of
testing,
that testing.
just for the
soil.
testing. Yep.
And from that, it was identified which areas can be moved off-site without any cost, which areas can be spread within the building.
Right.
And then 2,000 cubic yards are going to have to be disposed of.
So they quantified 3 things, right? There was clean, polluted, and contaminated. The clean obviously could be moved off-site with no additional cost. The site contractor owns that. The polluted can be reused on-site if there's room and they can find locations for it. Contaminated has to be moved off-site. So that's how it was quantified. There are 3 different classifications. We did follow up with Eagle because when we had our meeting with them a week ago today, and they indicated that, okay, so you've got clean, you've got contaminated, you've got polluted, right? So the plan was all the clean would be removed off-site, no additional cost. They would try to maximize as much of the polluted would stay on-site, and then the contaminated obviously had to be removed off-site. So contaminated on Mount Norton was 1,500 cubic yards, and then I think on the pond pile was another 600. So about 2,100 cubic yards had to be removed as contaminated.
And we don't have a price on that.
We are working on that
They're
price
working
now.
on that. So we had a conversation yesterday. We had a conversation the day before. That's what we knew, right? But then we did follow up with Eagle, and Eagle in the meeting did say that they wanted to take a look at what the levels were of metals.
The heavy metals, yes.
Heavy metals in the soils that were tested.
Specifically the clean.
In the clean soils. So the way it was explained to me by Lynn Willie is that there are naturally occurring metals that occur in all kinds of soils. If they exceed the minimum amounts, then DEEP has to be notified if they're being taken off site. Unfortunately, on the clean fill, they did go over the minimum amount of whatever the indication is. So we do have to notify DEEP if we're going to be moving these soils anywhere off-site. We did talk about North End, to take it over there. Ryan is telling me though that North End has an overabundance of fill that they're looking to spread, so they really don't want to take any more over there. We're going to talk to Sean and the town engineer to see if there's anywhere in town that could accept these for whatever reason that they may need. It's above the minimum, but it's still not, as Lynn Wheely explained to me, these could be used for anything, including playgrounds. It's not a huge restriction. It's just that these are naturally occurring metals that unfortunately DEP is now classifying as they have to be tracked. So
And I think he said recently they've updated those levels, making them lower.
It's yeah.
Right. Minimums have gone down, so
But it's still, yeah. And he did say it's unfortunate that they're actually tracking these naturally occurring metals in the soils, so.
The timeline on this, I know when I talked to Brian on site, he said that, the pile is really in the way. And they need to move it out of there. What's our time?
So Richards had planned on bringing trucks in tomorrow and taking the clean out of there. Unfortunately, we had to tell them today you can't do that. So they are working up a plan to try to spread. So most of this, outside of the contaminated, the polluted and the clean that is not technically able to be, that's totally clean, doesn't stay within the levels, they think they're going to be able to utilize that around the site. Even though this original, 2,000 yards? The clean was about, actually, more like 3,750 yards that they were originally, or actually more like a little over 4,000. They're going to be able to use most of that on site. There are areas that that have gravel, that's just natural gravel that was in the ground, that they can remove that gravel and utilize that in other spots, and then use this soil, this material as fill in those areas, because they're not in structural areas, so they don't have to have that structural gravel in there. So they are working to identify everywhere they can use on site to use this, so they can start reducing that pile and moving around. And some of it's going to be used in around that pond area, right? That the storm water pond, and so we are working with Eagle, and we are working with Richards to come up with the best plan of how to minimize what has to leave this site and what will have to be paid for. The contaminated, which is
It's 2,100 cubic yards, this and then this.
yeah. So the 2,100 yards has to go off. Pardon me?
The 2,100 is polluted and contaminated, correct?
No, that's just contaminated.
Well, yeah, I mean, they're classifying it as
Correct.
contaminated, but contaminated is the highest level of, it's gotta come off site.
Right, 600 has to go off.
2,100 has to go off. The two pinks.
Oh, you said 15, okay, so.
Yeah,
So
there's
1,500
600 on the pond pile, and then there's 1,500 in the mountain.
Mountain, yeah.
Okay.
So 21, no matter what, we cannot keep on site. That has to be disposed of properly. We are going to do our best to utilize the rest on site.
So this will be coming back to us.
At some point, yes, we will have to come back for that 2,100, and we will have a proposal. We're working with the same company that did the testing to get the proposal. They'll do all the work, file with the DEP, all the things that they have to do to dispose of it properly.
And this is
Wasn't
good.
the site balanced?
What's what? Oh,
According to our site civil engineer, yes. Yeah, and then the calculations during the estimating between our sub and ONG's, that's what we calculated as a team. It was that it was balanced.
The issue is that Norton site is phased, so this whole
So
site
we
is.
calculated it based on balancing between each phase.
Okay.
So,
I get the polluted, that's fine.
yeah.
But let's let the numbers come.
Right, again, we might be able to use take this gravel out. Like this material we could not use to backfill large portions of where the building is gonna get taken down, the existing building, but we may be able to use large portions filled with the gravel that we're gonna replace where we know we don't need any sort of structural fill.
And there's no, I thought there's no way to mix to reduce the level? You already asked that, Lynn?
Yeah, we can't blend it to try to reduce the overall level.
Yeah, I'm not an expert in
Yeah.
this, I just
Yeah.
curious.
I
'Cause
think
you
that's-
mentioned it at the other site or.
That's what we were doing over at North with the pesticides, but this
Right.
is heavy metal, so
Okay.
we can't.
Okay, a motion to approve PCO 010 for $21,346 to come out of the CM allowance number 5 site work. So moved. Second? Chuck? Discussion? Nothing further? All those in favor? Is that the last one?
That's the last one.
Okay. We're going to move into an executive session. However, before we do that, I want to do two quick things. One is, Jeff, if you would take just a second to talk about the May 30th plans at Barnum School, so the committee's aware of what's going on there.
Sure, we've been working with local veterans to recognize Barney Barnum. He'll be in town on Friday, May 30th, so we have a schedule designed where at 9 o'clock we'll be speaking to students at Cheshire High School. Then he's going to shoot over to the new school site where we will have kind of a naming ceremony, unveil a banner, and then they'll be heading over to Chapman School. The plans for the naming ceremony, as much as only like a half hour is set aside for that, are seemingly, growing, and we'll have students there. We're gonna set up buses to transport people, hopefully from Cheshire Park, that hasn't been finalized yet, to the site, because really there's just not enough parking to accommodate people there. We met with George at the site yesterday, and he's trying to lay out some space that would be appropriate for May 30th. Coming along pretty well, but more to follow.
Okay. We had asked Justin a while back, a couple of months ago, if Tecton could design a banner. I haven't heard back from him on that.
I will punish him tomorrow.
We have talked about it.
He's listening now.
No need for punishment, as long
Um,
as it's something that he is presently home working on right now.
Yeah,
so.
I said that because he is listening. So, we will look at it. You want a rendering of the sign on the building, or what? Have you
No.
discussed what you want?
No, I don't think we've discussed what I know we haven't discussed what we
Okay,
wanted.
we'll
but
do it. We'll take care of it.
Yeah, I didn't know if they
yeah.
wanted to put a picture of him on it,
Okay.
and, with Barnum Elementary School. It's something that's not gonna be permanent.
Oh, I
just
see.
It's
Okay.
going to be
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
unveiled at that time
Gotcha.
as a big deal, and there was even some discussion about getting some of the steel work up and putting this
Right
onto
on
the
there.
steel work, but I don't know if it may be too far back on that site where we won't be able to
There's
see
something that'll
it.
be hung on the fence
Okay.
after
Yeah. Yeah.
it's over and people can see it from the street.
Just something that would be special to suddenly unveil, here it is. It's no longer New North Elementary or whatever that we've been
He says
calling
he's
it. It's
on
now
it.
the Barnum Elementary School.
We will.
But this is May 30th, so it's coming on us
Yeah.
pretty quickly.
Yep. Yep. We'll take care of it.
So maybe if, somebody can do a rendering and
We'll get a
shoot it
draft.
over,
Yeah.
shoot it
PDF.
over to us to
Yep.
take a look at.
Sure. Yep.
Secondly, I don't want to go into executive session because everyone will have to leave. Laurel is going to be saying goodbye to us as of today, and very nicely has brought a cake for us all. So we're going to take about 10 minutes or so, and then we're going into executive session after that. But we don't want to pass up this cake. But
Yeah.
Laurel,
We
I
need
want to
sugar
thank you
high.
very much. It's been a joy working with you all this time. We are, as you know, moving along well and financially in decent shape. And a lot of that is due to your hard work, which we really appreciate. So, thank you. All right, and feel free to cut cake.
She likes to say she's leaving the project, but I'm not gonna leave her
Yeah,
alone.
She told me she was leaving a month ago, but she's still here.
Well, she didn't want to miss everybody that wasn't here last week.
Oh,
so-
is that how it worked? Okay. So don't go away, people, but let's get back together at 9:10 in executive
You
session.
can have cake or you can have salad.
So you could get